You hear a guy bitch and moan about a woman being disloyal and lacking in principles and blah, blah, blah. You listen to most MGTOWs or whatever who get all butthurt about how women act. Yeah, you're going to feel contempt for them. Of course you will. Because you're going to recognize the truth. That they are failing to understand women. It's no different than, for instance, failing to understand a bear in the woods, right? You go out in the woods, right? And you see some black bear or whatever, right? And you see that the black bear has a little cub, right? Do you go up to the cub and start playing with the cub? Of course not, because that big black bear is going to see this, freak out, and go and eat you. Eat your head off in one chomp. Of course, right? And so, if you know this, yeah, you know how that black bear is going to behave, right? You can predict it, you can anticipate it, you know what to do, and more importantly, what not to do, right? Same with women, okay? So, when a guy complains about a woman, it's the same as him complaining, oh, I went out to the woods, I saw this cute little bear cub and I wanted to play with it, but the big bear came and ate my head. Nasty, nasty black bear. Idiot! Before I start with today's video, please check out my Instagram. Yeah, I got Instagram. Why? There's no real benefit to it, and so at this point, I just want to have as many subscribers on Instagram as possible. I want to be an Instagram thought. Yes, that's what I want to be. I want to be an Instagram thought. I want some rich old lady to use me as her sugar baby. Yeah, like lounge out in some like giant yacht out in the Mediterranean, and just like sipping Mai Tais all day and getting a rub down from a masseuse all day. Yeah, that's what I want. And I need your help. Only if I have like 1 million Instagram subs will I be that Instagram thought. So you better help me. If you don't help me, man, if I'm living under a bridge next year, it's because of you. See, like most guys, I've noticed that women have no principles and no loyalty whatsoever. Oh yeah, they do not. Especially the younger ones, right? When they're young, no loyalty, no principles. I mean, they might claim to believe one thing or the other, but it's just bullshit, right? And if something better comes along, they'll abandon their principles, they'll abandon their friends, just like that. Hell yeah. And we've seen it so many times that for women to deny it is just ridiculous at this point, because it's true. Now, a lot of guys are incredibly upset about this truism. The truism being that women have no principles and no loyalty. They are upset about it and they get pissed off. They get pissed off at women. They feel that they have been taken advantage of. They feel angry about it. And yet in my own case, I've never ever felt angry about this lack of loyalty or lack of loyalty to principles. No, because I understand women. And you know how I understood women, where it came from? From two things. Learning about the history of the Mongol Empire and the Nature Channel. Let me explain. See, years ago, years and years ago, I don't remember when, but I was watching the Nature Channel, right? It must have been when I was like in my 20s or something like that, right? And they were showing lions. And they were showing these lions and how, there was the one lion, male lion, and, a bunch of female lions and a bunch of cubs, right? And what happened was that an alpha lion, an up-and-coming alpha lion, came up and fought the alpha lion of this particular pride and defeated him. And so the new lion was in charge of the pride, right? And what he did is he proceeded to murder all of the cubs of the pride, right? He murdered them all. Because, of course, he didn't want to be raising some other lion's cubs, right? So he murdered all of the cubs that couldn't run away or defend themselves, right? And what happened with the female lions of the pride? Did they object? No, they didn't object. What did they do? They went into heat. They wanted to fuck the new lion, right? Which I thought was just like bizarre, bizarre until I realized that I was looking at it through a male morality. I was thinking to myself, these female lions, man, how despicable, This new lion comes along, kills their cubs. And what do the female lions do? Do they attack this new lion? No, they basically spread their legs for this lion. What the fuck, right? That's what I thought. But then, of course, a little bit more sophisticated, I started thinking to myself that what was going on was that everybody was adjusting to natural selection, to the pressures, the evolutionary pressures of natural selection. Yeah, because what happened was that the new lion wanted all the cubs in the pride to be his own cubs. He didn't want to be raising somebody else's cubs. He wanted a genetic legacy. And so how would he do that? He had to have sex with the females, right? But at the same time, he had to make sure that the females paid attention to his cubs and not to the other cubs of the previous alpha lion. And so that's why he killed the cubs, right? And it's nasty. It's, if we look at it from a male morality, from a male, not female, a male morality, it's really despicable and immoral and evil and all the rest of it. Yeah, but that's evolution. Evolution in action. Evolution is not moral. Evolution is not pretty. Evolution compels every living organism to do things that, if we're looking at it from a rational perspective, from a Judeo-Christian moral perspective, is really just despicable, but they do it all the time. And so I thought to myself, why would I, as a man, and the human beings around me, why would we be any different? Of course, because you see, we human beings are animals. Yeah, we're no different from, the lions and the whales and the chimpanzees and the insects and whatever the fuck, right? We're animals. We evolved, right? We evolved from Australopithecus or whatever the hell was before us. And here we are, Homo sapiens, right? And we are subject to the very same evolutionary pressures, right? And then I thought about the Mongol Empire. And because back in the day, when Genghis Khan, Chinggis Khan, right? When he wasn't Khan yet, he was just another, guy out there in the Mongol steppes, right? His wife was kidnapped. And his wife was kidnapped, and potentially she well, actually, no, it wasn't potentially. She was, in fact, raped by the people who kidnapped her. And in point of fact, it's not that she was simply raped by them, but, she copulated with them multiple times. And the fact of the matter is that, Genghis Khan went and rescued her and brought her back. And shortly thereafter, she gave birth to a child. I forget the name of this child, right? But this child would eventually actually become emperor. I forget. I used to know all this stuff, but that's not important. You can look it up in Wikipedia or whatever. But the point is, see, Genghis Khan, his wife was kidnapped. And she was kidnapped by some raiders, and she adjusted to life with these raiders, right? And she may have been raped, so she claimed later, but more likely than not, she wasn't merely raped. She probably copulated them because, she was now their possession. She was now in their control. And so what was she going to do about it, right? She was just going to make do with what she had. And so she was there in this camp, and then Genghis Khan came around and rescued her, quote unquote, and took her back. And maybe he got her pregnant, maybe she was pregnant before. It was never really known. And this was actually a source of great political tension later on, decades later, but that's not important. That's not the point. The point is, see, that Genghis Khan's wife, she fucked some other guys, right? Because she had to. Because what was she going to do? Because she had been captured, and if she didn't just simply have sex with them, they were just going to continue to rape her violently. And so, she made peace with the situation. Of course, that's not what the history books say, but you can read between the lines. I mean, we're all adults. We all recognize the situation, what happened. She made peace with the situation, and then when Genghis Khan rescued her, she went back to him, right? And that's what happened. Now you look at prehistory in the literal sense, in the sense of history before it was written down, and we see archaeological evidence of raids on this camp by this other camp, right? And these raids, what would they do? They would usually kill the men and the boys and steal the women and the girls, right? And they would presumably rape them, but eventually, it wasn't just a thing of like violently raping them. These women would just have to make peace with the situation, right? Because this is how it is. This is how human beings were. And it's an ugly truth, but it is the truth, right? These women, these girls, they would be kidnapped by some competing party, some competing tribe or what have you. They would perhaps initially be raped, or perhaps the women would just reconcile themselves to the reality of the situation that they'd been captured, and now they would be the women of this other tribe. And so they would make do with what they had. And this was the natural order of things for millennia. Because of course, men who do not have women in the past, what would they do? They would go out and steal them. Yeah, as simple as that. Men, human beings, right? Whenever they don't have something, they either work for it or they go and steal it from somebody who does have it. And this is not a secret. This is how we are as human beings, right? And we've created a whole moral mechanism against this. I mean, we all say, stealing is bad. It's one of the 10 Commandments and so forth, right? But what have we done for tens of thousands of years? Whenever somebody had a horse and we wanted that horse, we would either try to get it somehow, or worst case scenario, would go get a rock and kill the owner of that horse and just steal it, or at least knock the sucker out and steal his horse and ride off into the sunset with it. That's what we did with horses, with women, with whatever, okay? And so from an evolutionary perspective, it made sense for women to simply adapt to their new situation. Adapt to their new situation so as to minimize their own pain and misery and suffering, right? Of course they did that. Of course, because they're human beings. We are masters at minimizing suffering, just like every other living creature on this earth, okay? Women will sacrifice their principles and their loyalty in order to make their lives easier or better. And especially now. And now when we live in a time where the shackles of Judeo-Christian morality have been broken utterly. And really it's just a do-it-yourself kind of morality. And you're on your own, morally speaking, right? Well, what do women wind up doing? They wind up living a life of basically, you only live once, right? YOLO. Or, just do whatever feels good, and by extension, of course, don't do those things that don't feel good, right? And that, of course, means that if you're with a man, if you're a woman and you're with a man and, it's not as much fun as it used to be, then you have permission to leave him, right? You have permission to leave him because, it doesn't feel so good anymore, right? Right. That's what they do. But men today, when they hear that, when they see that, when they experience that, they get fucking outraged. They say that the woman's a whore, the woman's this, the woman's that, whatever, right? They get pissed. They get supremely pissed. You have no idea how many videos I've watched on YouTube and what have you of different guys getting all pissed off about this reality that women have no principles, women have no loyalty, and that the second things don't go well, they'll walk away from the man. They'll leave him for some other better man. Yeah, they're so pissed at it, right? And I think that that's just, frankly, I think that that's foolish. Supremely foolish. And the reason I think it's foolish is obviously because this is the nature of women. It's as simple as that. It's been bred into them by evolution. Yeah. Women will not be loyal, and they will not stick to their principles. Whatever principles they might have, they just, talk, okay? More likely than not, whatever principle they have is just to get in good with the in-group so that they remain a member in good standing of the in-group. That's why they spout their rhetoric, whatsoever that rhetoric may be it liberal or conservative, right? Blue-haired feminist or trad thought. They're spouting this not because they believe in it, but because it's the mechanism by which they are integrated into the group that they want to belong to. And if that means that they have to say that they're socialists or they have to say that they're fascists, they're going to say it. They will say whatever is necessary to get in good with the in-group, because women need the in-group for protection. This is an issue of evolution. And so to get mad at women for breaking their word, for being disloyal, for lacking principles, it's absurd, it's foolish, okay? It's foolish and it's naive. I did a video a while back called The Scorpion and the Frog. And I used the Aesop's fable of the scorpion and the frog. The frog, thought that the scorpion wasn't going to sting him, but of course the scorpion just couldn't help his nature, and of course stung the frog and killed the frog, right? And drowned because of it, right? Even when stinging the frog went against the scorpion's best interest, because that's the nature of scorpions, right? Yeah, this is the nature of women. And to be upset about it is foolish. And frankly, I prefer somebody who is disloyal and lacking in principles over somebody who's stupid. Because you see, somebody who's stupid is just, pathetic. But somebody who is disloyal and has no principles, they are predictable. And that's the key issue. See, women are predictable. You have to understand them. You have to understand how they are predictable. Because men are predictable when they have certain principles and certain loyalties. They will be very predictable, and they will be loyal, and they will adhere to their principles, because that's the nature of men. Men have, by the same token, evolved to stick to principles and stick to loyalty, because it benefits them. If you are loyal to your tribe, right, your tribe will protect you. Your tribe will protect you, especially in your moments of need. That's the point of it. That's the reason that you promise loyalty to your tribe, to your group, to your country, to whatever. You see? It's because you expect that nation, that country, that state, that tribe to protect you in your hour of need. But women, what happens with women? They have to adapt to the situation, whatsoever that situation may be. Maybe right now they're with Genghis Khan, but then maybe some competing tribe kidnaps her, and so she has to be loyal to that new tribe. And she's not loyal to that tribe. She is just protecting her best interests. You see? Now, men protect their best interest by living up to their principles and being loyal, right? But foolishly, men, you presumably, you are imposing your morality on women. You are the frog, and you expect the scorpion to be the same as you, the frog, which is absurd. It's absurd because you cannot change people's nature, especially when it comes to the nature of the sexes. You've got millions of years of evolution going against you. So to try to impose on women your own notions of principles, adherence to principles, and morality, it's just dumb. It's just childish. It's just naive. It's foolish. Because, see, nothing that you do or say will make a woman live up to her principles. The only reason she will live up to her principles, the only reason she will be loyal, is if failing to adhere to her principles, or the principles she espouses, failure to be loyal, will hurt her with the in-group that she is a part of. If she is with a strong in-group that exerts clear pressure insofar as delineating that which is correct and that which is wrong, well then, of course, the woman is going to be extremely principled and extremely loyal, especially when she's young. But if the in-group is weak, or if the in-group, like we have today, is all in favor of pursuing selfish desires, you only live once and crap like that, hedonistic pleasure above all else, being happy all the time, well then of course she's not going to be loyal to you, presumably. Of course, the first time she meets a more handsome guy or a better man than you, she's going to leave you. Yeah, of course, because that's the milieu that she's in. Yeah? Now, is this depressing? Is this, is this soul crushing somehow? Is this like the end of the world? Does this mean to yourself that, you could never have any kind of relationship with a woman? No, it doesn't mean that, It's not necessarily depressing. It's funny, as far as I'm concerned. Why is it funny? Because it makes people predictable, See, when something happens, right, and it's out of the blue, that's a tragedy, right? But when you see something happening and you can predict how it's going to be, it's funny. Why is it funny? Because you can predict it and you can get ahead of the situation, right? And any failure in that kind of situation, it's not the failure of the woman in this case, right? It's your failure, because you're not anticipating what's going to happen, right? The point is, see, when you understand women, when you understand what the pressures that they are subject to entail, when you understand what drives them, when you understand that a limitation for you is no limitation for them and vice versa, right? When you understand this, truly understand it, you can predict a woman. And because you can predict a woman, you're not going to be angry at her or upset when she does whatever she does, right? Of course not, because if you can predict her behavior, you can anticipate it, you can get ahead of it. The only guys who bitch and moan about women and say that they're lacking in principles and they're disloyal and all the rest of it, blah, 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 are the guys who, for whatever reason, fail to anticipate what women are going to do, fail to predict what they are going to do. Quite frankly, these guys, they're pretty much morons. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, they could have like a lot of IQ points. They can be fucking geniuses for all I care, right? But they're fucking idiots because they are not looking at women qua women. They are imposing their own standards on the women. For all intents and purposes, they're looking at a goddamn mirror, and then they're upset when the mirror does not reflect who they are. You see what I mean? And of course, a woman is not a mirror of you. A woman is her own distinct animal, okay? And I don't mean this in a sense of belittling women. I'm just saying that like you, like me, like every human being, we are animals. Never forget that. You got to remember, bottom line, okay? All human beings are predictable. All human beings are predictable. The reason you want to be reading 19th century novels, the great novelists of our times, okay? And also Shakespeare, the great artists, not the modernist idiots like Joyce and what have you, and Pynchon or whatever, but I'm talking about the true masters of narrative art, like Chekhov, like Ibsen, like Dostoevsky, Dickens, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky especially, right? You want to read those guys because they teach you about human nature, because human nature does not change. You have to understand that. You understand that human nature doesn't change. You understand that women don't have principles. And whatever principles they claim to believe in, it's just so much bullshit, right? And they don't have any loyalty either. Not because they're bad, but because for them, what is important is different from loyalty to you, okay? You understand this, and you can predict them. And once you can predict them, you can anticipate what they're going to do. The other day, I did a video where I misquoted Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky had said that, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? I had ascribed that to Michael Jordan, but it was actually Wayne Gretzky, right? Well, Wayne Gretzky said something else that was really smart. He said, I never go where the puck is. I go to where the puck is going to be. Very true, very wise. The same with women, okay? If you can predict them, if you understand their motivation, if you understand that they are not men, they are women, radically different from men, well, if you understand this, and you understand that they have no principles, and you have to understand they have no loyalty because those concepts don't apply, then you can predict what they're going to do. You can predict what they are going to do and be where the puck is going to be before they even realize it. You see?